With the anxiously awaited bout between Vergil Ortiz Jr. and Serhii Bohachuk winding up, here are some of the best reactions.
Judges' scorecards. Max DeLuca scored this contest 113, a draw.
Same.
Overruled by David Sutherland and Steve Weisfeld, who each had it 114, 112 in favor of your winner by majority decision. And the new champion of the world, the Grand Prairie, Texas, the undefeated Vergil Ortiz Jr.
Said, forget Tinzu, the fight he wants to make is Bud Crawford and Vergil Ortiz. Let's do it. I'm ready for it, John. I think Bud is playing number one in the world, and I want to show that I got what it takes to do.
Look, it's 7-5. You know, could have been scored.
Make it
8-4 in Ortiz's way. Yeah. So yeah, look, one round back and forth. You know, it was the knockdowns is what made the points come up a real close. But I think Ortiz had it.
You think 8-4 though? Like 8-4? Because I know there were certain rounds that was really close, but
Yeah, it could have gone either way. But I feel like Ortiz dictated the pace. You know, that was a tough battle for both of them.
Well, in his mind, in his heart, he knows he won the fight. Thanks, Jeff. In his mind, he knows he won the fight. He's fighting for his country. He got the knockdowns. He should have won and he's a defending champion. You got to take the belt from the champion, and Vergil didn't do that. And I don't want to discredit Vergil at all. All the respect in the world for him and Robert Garcia, what they did, but it was the judging. The judging, like I said, you can't give every close round to Vergil because he was landing harder punches. I gotta give him credit. He landed some great body shots. He landed some hard punches, but Serhii had his head snapped back also, snapping back Vergil's head, and he had his face busted up. His nose was busted up. His eye was busted up. That didn't come from not landing punches.
I was gonna say with the 2 knockdowns, how do you think the math works out?
Man, I think maybe 7-5 Ortiz. With the 2 knockdowns, it could be either even or Bohachuk in front. So I don't know, it's boxing, you never know. But man, that was the crowd pleasing for sure, you know. That was a cracker fight.
Hey Tim, that was almost you in there, man. I mean, what would happen if Vergil fought you?
It would have been a cracker, man. It would have been a cracker. These two are warriors, man.
Regardless of the outcome, would you still want to fight Vergil?
Yeah, for sure, man. He put on a hell of a show, you know. And this was his first proper fight at 154. You know, he really.
All right, let's
That was his first 154. It's a different club at 154.
Thanks, Tim.
Long-time promoter, do you see these things as part of the game because maybe they have other
It's
plans
just discouraging.
ahead?
It's discouraging. We had the Triple G situation up here, and again, I get along with Jeff Mullen. I think he's a great commissioner. It's not his fault. He checked the replay on the first round and ruled correctly that it was. So I'm not blaming Jeff either. It's just I don't know what the judges get caught up in with this. You know, one judge had it a draw. We could have accepted a draw where he would have kept his title, but taking the title away in a fight like that with 2 knockdowns, it doesn't make sense to me.
So-called sanctioning bodies, man, like it's sick and tired of this time and time again. How unfair they could be to these fighters, like tonight with Serhii, how unfair they could be. They put their lives on the line, everything that they go through just to get to this point. And for these officials to I don't know what they're looking at, man. And not only that, nobody holds them accountable. Nobody holds them accountable. They interview all the fighters. They interview the fighters, they interview the judges, the managers, the promoters, they interview everybody except the judges. They go home. They just go home and nobody tells them anything, nobody questions them, nobody puts them on the spot, you know, and I believe that's gotta stop.
Oh, we knew it was a close fight. Serhii came to fight. He was prepared better than ever. You know, honestly, he came in prepared. He came in to fight all 12 rounds very hard. You know, he took a lot of punishment too, and I gotta give him respect and credit for the type of fight that he put up. I think coming to the last 3 rounds, we did we did push Vergil to need to win this round, especially because of those 2 knockdowns that were countered. You know, we knew the fight had to be close because every round was very close. So we had to push him to finish.
I mean, we're going to go back to the hotel and celebrate because in our hearts, and Serhii knows that he's a champion. He would be here right now. He didn't want to go to the hospital. The commission mandated that he goes to get a precautionary CT scan.
Disgusting robbery in fight of the year. Disgusting robbery.
This fight on Saturday night, which took place at the Mandalay Bay Hotel in Las Vegas, was a fight between the finest fighters in the welterweight division. Originally intended to be between Vergil and the former WBO champion of the world, Tim Tszyu, the plan had to be revamped after the Australian fighter was impaired, leading him to withdraw. Despite this unforeseen development, rather than pursuing a more compliant opponent, Vergil and his team decided to go after the Ukrainian powerhouse Serhii Bohachuk, a WBC interim welterweight super champion. Aware of the stakes of this unexpected matchup, many boxing pros and analysts gave their takes on the outcome of this battle, including the former professional boxer and renowned promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, who championed his young fighter Vergil Ortiz, stating how this fight would be very rousing as both the opponents were acclaimed as the best punchers in the division. Oscar stated, "You look at it on paper and you see all those knockouts, and then I see something in Bo's face that is scary, but then I see Vergil Ortiz wearing the glasses. So it's going to be one of those great fights that we don't want to miss." On the other hand, Oscar also weighed in on the prospect of the winner of this fight moving forward to fight the undisputed champions, including the much sought-after Terence Crawford, considering how recently the likelihood of his fight with Canelo was annihilated due to the ongoing drama between Canelo and His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. Oscar said, "It's the prize that we all have been looking for, it's the fight that we all want to see. I strongly feel that this fight Saturday night with Vergil and Bohachuk is going to decide the candidate for fight of the year." Oscar also gave an inkling about the future plans for Vergil that he would most likely opt for after he won against Bohachuk. According to Oscar, the endmost goal would be to go Agent Crawford, but before that, the most appropriate measure for them would be to first unify with Tim Tszyu, so the winner of that fight could have a paramount battle with Bud.
Vergil winning, I will pursue maybe Tim Tszyu, before we get to Crawford.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, you have to defend your title once, or you have to unify with Tim Tszyu because he has a fight coming up.
For the IBF.
But in the perfect world, imagine Vergil Ortiz, Tim Tszyu, the winner fights Terence Crawford.
Talking about a possible brawl with the Australian fighter, Tim Tszyu gave his outlook on this fight, which inclined more towards Vergil Ortiz, emphasizing how based on the performance that he has scrutinized, Vergil was a sensational opponent for anyone including Bohachuk, who he was not particularly accustomed with.
I haven't seen much of Bohachuk, but I heard he's tough. That's all I've heard. But I don't know, it should be interesting. I'll be in Vegas at the time, so see if I can pop in and have a look.
Just like De La Hoya, Tim also emphasized the fact that despite a setback in his fight with Vergil Ortiz, he had his eyes on him for a very long time and would unabatingly wait for a future matchup only if it is orchestrated to be a main event, just like it deserves to be. He stated, "I would like this fight, for sure, hands down, but as a main event at least." Everyone was talking about it as if it should have been the main event, the real main event, because that fight deserves to be on its own platform. Looking back at the stellar record that Vergil Ortiz possessed before this fight with 21-0 and 21 spectacular knockouts, it was an unrefutable fact that this American boxer would not vanquish easily and would not bend towards anyone, which was something that became quite evident when he refused to shake Bohachuk's hand, leading to further hype around this fight.
And those two will be the main event as they now stare into each other's eyes. Ukraine against Texas. A smirk from Serhii. Stone-faced Vergil Ortiz. Hall of Famer De La Hoya. Hall of Famer Hopkins.
During the much-awaited press conference, Vergil appeared confident in his ability to beat the Ukrainian fighter, stating how he was the finest fighter in this weight class with extraordinary attributes that had helped him to persevere against arduous opponents, just like Serhii. Vergil said, "We put in all this hard work, and it all goes back to that day after kindergarten till now, so this Saturday I will be a world champion." Besides this optimistic attitude, Vergil highlighted the fact that even though his every victory had been a ramification of a knockout, this time, however, that might not be the case, as Serhii was an extremely resilient fighter who had a stellar record of his own. Reverberating the same opinions as Oscar, Vergil declared how this would be the greatest fight of the year, which would eventually set the pace for future matchups. Meanwhile, Vergil's trainer and a well-known former boxer, Robert Garcia, predicted that the fight would not go on for too long and would eventually terminate with a stoppage from Vergil's side due to the eminent history of knockouts that he had attained. He stated, "It's just like everybody else said, it's going to be a fight full of action. I don't see this fight going the distance at all. I think the fight ends, under 6 rounds, but it'll be great rounds and the fans are going to enjoy a great fight." Robert stated how this fight would only be a stepping stone for Vergil, as he had always been destined for bigger and better fights in the future against world champions like Serhii and Terence Crawford. Robert stated, "On Saturday night, Vergil will become the champion of the world. He's ready to do it, and this is just the beginning of many, many more titles." Days before the consequential fight took place, the fighters partook in vigorous training and sparring sessions, which were startlingly held in the same gym, and according to various spectators, the brief bouts were anything but monotonous. With his famed expertise in stopping his opponents early on with soul-shattering punches and expert tactics of drawing out his opponents, Ortiz had been considered a prodigy leading up to the fight. Bearing this in mind, Vergil, with his exceptional orthodox style, was highly compatible with Bohachuk's unprecedented punching power, which had resulted in countless knockout victories over the years, with the exception of world-class Brian Mendoza, who succeeded in withholding till the end.
Ortiz is over there doing interviews. He already worked out.
Being the first-hand observer of this resilience portrayed by both the fighter, Bernard Hopkins, who is a former professional boxer and a world champion, stated how this fight would be a source of feverish excitement to the fans, because both opponents were tremendously committed to the task of finding the who's the better boxer out of the two. Bernard stated, "Both of them want to win. They always want to win and they can't help themselves, but come forward and see who can last and keep that same energy, minute by minute, round by round. That is what makes it exciting." Just like others, Bernard also pointed out the stark resemblance between the fighting styles utilized by the boxers, which would ultimately complement them in a way that would not only make it a great fight stylistically, but it would also make the fight even more intoxicating for the viewers. He further added, "The styles are the same. No one's going to have to chase each other. That's not their style. They both are good counterpunchers based on being in front of you, wanting you to miss while they can hit you. All these things matter in the sweet science of boxing." While giving his credible prediction on who might win the ultimate showdown, Bernard seemed to be in Vergil's camp of supporters, which according to Bernard was a take entirely accordant with the fact that the fighter with the most power and frequency of jabs would persevere in the end. Bernard also reiterated the same ideas as Robert Garcia about the fight culminating near 6 or 7 rounds. He said, "It's going to be Vergil. I don't see this going past 6-7 rounds, and it's not based on talent, it's based on the shootout, on who will have the extra bullets left to finish the job." In spite of the onslaught of support that Vergil acquired before the fight, Serhii Bohachuk's camp also went into this fight with a sense of buoyancy and calm. Serhii himself gave countless statements on how, even though he was aware of how much of a ferocious adversary Vergil could be, he too would not be easy to overwhelm, as he recounted how both of them were aware of the attributes that the other fighter had, pertaining to the sparring sessions they had.
Он знает, что я жесткий, и он бы не взял бой со мной, если бы я не был в себе уверен на 100%. То есть, если он этот бой взял, значит, он уверен в себе, он значит, будет готов на все 100%. Значит, он очень уверен. Я не думаю, что он взял этот бой просто так. Он хочет выиграть, он хочет этот пояс.
Serhii's trainer and coach, Manny Robles, who is a former featherweight champion, appeared assured that his fighter would win this fight based on his tenacious fighting spirit. Manny added how despite the sheer possibility of Serhii's career being in jeopardy, he still decided to fight a boxer of Vergil's career, which further showed his combativeness and robustness. Manny stated, "Serhii could have taken the easy route and could have picked an easier opponent, but instead he chose to fight Vergil Ortiz. And that just goes to show you what kind of fighter Serhii is. He's not afraid of a tough fight." Further adding to the comment, Manny stressed the possibility of this fight becoming the fight of the year, as the prospect of witnessing a fight of this stature and between the best boxers of this division was quite scarce. He stated, "This fight is in the makings to be the fight of the year. It's going to be great." Bohachuk's past contender, Brian Mendoza, who before this fight was the only fighter who held out and was not subdued by Serhii by a knockout, but rather a unanimous decision, seemed to be on the lookout for the potential winner of this fight, to not only challenge out the victor, but to also vindicate himself by a rematch if the result came in Bohachuk's favor.
And that's just very high up on my list. That's a rematch I definitely want ASAP. But right now, I'm gonna check that fight out. See what the results are in that, and then we move forward from there. But definitely keeping my eye on that fight.
However, despite this thirst for vengeance in Brian's heart, he stated that Vergil would most probably triumph in the end, as he was the superior fighter, and that this would be a sensational event to witness for not only the boxing fans, but also for the boxing community as a whole.
What do you think of that fight, Brian?
I think it's a really good fight. Stylistically, I think they're both, very solid fighters, obviously. And I think it's going to be a very action-packed fight. So, I'm looking forward to it, watching it. And I definitely, have my eyes set on both of them, actually, because I still kind of lean towards Ortiz in that fight. But, Bohachuk, I got a big chip on my shoulder after that fight. So, I would love to run that fight back, with the full camp and everything.
Abbas Barao, a German professional boxer and WBC light middleweight champion of the world since 2019, gave his analysis of this marvelous fight between two young and robust fighters. According to Abbas, it was quite puzzling to predict the outcome of this fight, as both of the fighters had great skills which could have made the fight go in either's favor. Abbas stated, "I have no idea who will win. I will tune in, watch it, and be excited. It's boxing. Anything can happen. I'll leave it open and surprise myself." Just like Mendoza, Abbas also shared an avid interest in the winner of this fight for a possible opportunity to fight the victor, as Barao is ranked WBA's number fighter in his weight division, which grants him the permit to go adjunct either fighter in the welterweight division. Abbas stated, "I think it's a tough fight and also two of the top guys. Bohachuk is very strong and Ortiz is as well, and also very skillful. I'm interested in that fight as well, and we'll keep an eye on it and see what I have to deal with if the opportunity comes." Meanwhile, with the striking resemblance in the fighting style of both Ortiz and Bohachuk, as they both depend chiefly on the ruthless offensive, the most focal point that was voiced by many was what would be the attribute that would eventually make a difference and result in the dominance of either boxer. Giving some clarity on these exact comments, Teddy Atlas, an expert boxing analyst and phenomenal coach, stated that the deciding factor in this would have been the choice of stance and defensive strategies employed by the fighters, as relying solely on the offense would result in defeat. Teddy stated, "It's a great gift being a puncher, but it's also going to be a great curse because sometimes when you have that great gift, you don't develop the other things around it that you're going to need one day because it's not always going to win the fight for you." Predicting the fight to go in Vergil's favor, Teddy emphasized how after not only being one of the best fighters at welterweight, with an outstanding record of 21-0, Vergil had other attributes as well, like his solid left hooks, which, if utilized suitably, had the ability to completely dismantle his opponents like Bohachuk, who despite being a phenomenal puncher himself, lacked the prowess to hold properly in front of left hooks, which would not only make him vulnerable to a fighter like Vergil, but also he would be more susceptible to damage.
One of the reasons I got to favor Ortiz, besides that he's 21-0 with 21 knockouts, that ain't a bad reason, but anyone in front of him, he has a good chance of getting out, and getting out with what? A left hook to the body. And Bohachuk, his fundamentals are to put the earmuffs on, to cover up good, which is nice. But against a body puncher, when you do that, sometimes you identify as a heavy bag.
Teddy then alluded to another strategy that could have possibly been implemented by Vergil's team and his trainer, Robert Garcia, including the use of a meticulously crafted strategy to disarm Bohachuk's jabs, which, according to Teddy, most probably could have been the use of a counter right hand. Teddy stated, "I wouldn't be surprised if him and Robert Garcia, who's doing a heck of a job, came up with something to nullify the jab of Bol, and that something for me would be a counter right hand over the jab." He added, "It would take away the best weapon of Bohachuk, and if you do that well, you're making it a much easier night. Either way, it's a really intriguing fight." Making an appearance on the same show as Teddy, Chris Algieri, a former welterweight champion, seemed to be wholeheartedly on Vergil's side based on the outstanding performance displayed by the young American fighter throughout his somewhat brief professional career. Chris stated, "We see upsets on certain cards, but his ain't one of them. I'm actually leaning towards Ortiz in this fight." He added, "For a guy like Vergil Ortiz, who is so dynamic, so athletic and so explosive. It is easy, so I lean towards him for all those reasons. Regardless of this take, Chris emphasized on Bohachuk's strong attributes, especially his wide stance, which occasionally allowed him to land formidable shots. Chris also reminisced about the tenacious spirit that was showcased by Bohachuk Agsint, his last opponents Brian Mendoza and Tim Tszyu, who are some of the best and most rugged fighters in this division. Chris stated, "He is a wrecking ball. When this guy's in front of you, he hits hard like two-fisted sledgehammer-type punches." Bohachuk put a beating on Mendoza that night, and he gave Tim Tszyu a good fight. That's what I'm saying about this fight. The more you can't look past this guy. Another valid point that Chris pointed out was the recent performances that had been displayed by both fighters, which could eventually play a greater role in their performances during the fight. Chris stated that though Bohachuk had been more active as compared to Vergil in recent months leading up to this battle, Vergil has had more validating and more prominent wins, especially the knockouts he garnered in the earlier rounds of his last two fights, which might be something that could have influenced this bout as well.
Activity plagues fighters all the time. We talk about activity. Guess what? Vergil Ortiz, yeah, he's been in the ring twice in the past, 8 months. He was very inactive before that. 2 rounds. Yeah. 2-round destructions. 2 one-round destructions in a row. Bohachuk went 12 with Brian Mendoza half a year ago. So now you got a guy who's active, who's a wrecking ball, who had a good win against a very, very tough guy that he dominated. And you got Vergil Ortiz, not as active.
So in the end, what do you guys about the outcome of this fight? Did you enjoy the battle, and what do you think is next for either of these fighters? Make sure to tell us about your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to our channel.